Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Becky Plautz. And today we are talking around love expansion, and especially we are using the acronym of EXPAND today to talk around the topic of love expansion and using the framework. And I have Miss Terry Ann Sayer with me to have a community conversation, as this is our strategy hour. And that means that we get a community conversation going around our theme and how I like to use acronyms for a framework. And so good morning, Terry.
Good morning. It's lovely to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you too. And if you can see us, we're in our robes, we're
Yeah.
cozy because it's in the morning. And this is a great example of love expansion for me is I was like, oh, being on the podcast, do like intentionally knowing we were going to do this. I was wondering if I was gonna get dressed, but the morning did not work out that way. So I'm expanding my own self-love to just say I'm showing up and ready to do this. So I was pleased when I showed up and Terry was in her robe too.
Yeah, because it's only 7 o'clock here in California, so
Yeah.
I just got out of
Yes.
bed.
I love it. Well, great. If I needed permission, Terry gave it to me this morning. So,
Which you don't need.
which I do not need, but sometimes it's great. So, all right. Okay, Terry. So, we've talked a little bit about love expansion in the community and using acronyms, right? So, expand is where we're going to use the framework today to have discussion. And the E I have is embrace authenticity. So I would love to, I mean, we're exampling this for sure. And I would love to just have some dialogue around, why do you think it's important, right, to be authentic in relationships and business? So right in life, why is it important for us to be authentic and to feel like we can do that?
Yeah, I think that this is probably one of my core values,
Mm,
is to be authentic and honest. I believe that's a component of authenticity is to be honest and with yourself. So not just being authentic in your sphere of influence, but also being authentic with yourself, embracing yourself. I mean, so we're talking about embracing authenticity. I think embracing your true nature, embracing who you are, um, eliminating that need to be someone that someone else wants you to be, but to be authentically yourself. And that is an opportunity to make a connection with yourself. Because I really believe that for many, many years, I was not authentic. I was whom I thought I needed to be
right.
in my career, in my family, in my relationships with my friends. I was often thinking first, what do I need to do to have them think I'm of value?
Mhm.
Rather than saying I am of value because of who I am, what I bring to the table, my capacity, my knowledge, my experiences. And I think that that was a part of my journey and my transformation to self-love was to recognize first who I was, because not all people, I'm a life coach, people I work with don't know who they are. They don't
Right.
know what their authentic core values are because they're living in a world where they're accepting their value from others rather than their value
Mhm.
from deep inside their own soul. So that's my first thought around embracing authenticity, our own authenticity. And
Yeah.
once we do that, then we show up authentically, right?
I love this. So this is exactly why I love Terry and having conversations, because your first thought is so deep and profound and very introspective right around the topic. And right, so for our listeners, where can you bring more authenticity into your relationships or your work? Where do you feel like, oh yeah, I already know I'm, showing up as what Jamie Kern Lima calls in the book Worthy. She calls it showing up as your representative.
Mhm.
That you're, I'm this person when I show up, for work, and I'm this person when I show up in my family, and I'm this person when I show up to hang out with my friends. And it's like that's us showing up as our, what she says, representative. And instead of thinking right about embracing just our authentic self in any moment, and being true to ourselves and our value system. I love that you brought those things in to the conversation, because it is about the daily interactions. It's about a flow of just feeling like, yeah, I'm myself. Um, I'm me. This is me.
Yeah.
Yeah, embracing that. I love it. And that's why it's so important, right? Because we take ourselves everywhere we go. So when we feel like we can embrace who we are, and the honesty piece. I love that you brought the word honesty in. I was like kind of geeking out because is a big God wink. This morning, my angel card was honesty and communication. So that was all around, feeling free to be myself and to remember that honesty is the best policy. And that goes with just, the way that I want to show up and
Mhm.
continue to be in my relationships and in my business,
Mhm.
in those interactions. So yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, the X is fun because I'm using the word explore instead of just an X. So explore vulnerability. And I know that vulnerability can be a lot of different things for people. Something that people embrace, something that people fear. And Terry is a fearless living coach. And I know that you talk a lot about vulnerability and, the courage that it takes to be vulnerable. And, really what happens when we're exploring vulnerability and being willing to do that is that it builds trust, right? We open up to share from that authentic place that we're talking about, the heart center, from the soul, that it takes courage to be vulnerable. And when we do bring courage with us and make the choice to be vulnerable in situations and explore that, we're building that trust with ourselves to be more authentic and to continue on that path. So I would love to hear, like, Terry, do you have any examples of vulnerability that has led to
Well,
growth for you?
yeah, I think you and I talked about this once before, that we looked
Yes.
up the word vulnerable in the dictionary. It was not a positive definition, if I recall.
I'm curious now.
And then we talked about, the transformation, not, well, how words change, in our society.
Yes.
So if it may have
Words
been,
matter for sure.
yeah, if it had been more of a negative connotation, and still to some people it would be negative, it would
Hmm.
be a weakness rather than a strength.
Right.
And I think absolutely it comes with authenticity. If you're not being your true self and valuing yourself and knowing that what you think and how you feel and how you act is important, it is who you
Mm.
are and what you've come to this place. I mean, I believe we came to the earth for a purpose, and that purpose is for us to love one another and love ourselves and love, for me to love God because I'm a God girl. But
Yeah.
I think that for me, vulnerability means confidence, courage to speak our truth. It
Mm.
also takes discernment of when and to whom you want to be vulnerable. I think there's some wisdom in the choice of being vulnerable with some individuals, with maybe in some circles that we find ourselves. So I think that there is a level of discernment around vulnerability, um, because we want to be safe, and it
Mhm.
takes courage to know when and where and with whom to show that willingness to open your heart. Because honestly, there are people on in our society that it wouldn't be safe to open your heart, and knowing that and having the wisdom um, to make that choice. I think that it's much more than just, oh, I'm always an open-hearted person in every situation in terms of sharing. Um,
Right.
I mean, I think that it takes discernment, which
Mm.
happens to be one of the words I used for for
Yeah, I
expand.
love that.
That you know, there's a degree in our society of people who we do not want to be vulnerable around because it's not safe.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's a
just
really
throw
great.
that in there.
I love that. Yeah. See, that's another perspective, right? That I might not touch on, and right, that you're bringing to the table, which is why this is really powerful for the listeners and for you and I, right, to have this dialogue, to really come together. Because, and I love that you use the word wisdom. Of course, the wisdom of women is always a focus here that we want to bring out more, and that's very true. The discernment and being able to make those choices to that is where the trust is built with ourselves too, to know that we can trust that the choices that we're making and the people that we're choosing to share our heart with, our heart vision, those pieces that, yeah, they do need protection, especially when they're in the beginning. This is a big thing actually this week that I've been reminded of the importance of protecting those seeds as they're planted in us,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Did you look
letting
up
the
the
roots take,
yeah.
get strength before someone might, you know,
Yeah.
squash what we're being vulnerable about.
Yeah, because I just was curious again about vulnerability in the word because it means in danger, in
Yep.
peril, in jeopardy, at risk is what the dictionary says. Why would we ever do that, right?
Yeah.
But it's come to mean open-heartedness and
Hmm.
as well. So, and I don't believe in when I'm looking at Webster's dictionary, it does not have that.
Yeah, I see one that says uncertainty, risk, and
Mhm, mhm.
emotional exposure. It's not a
Yeah,
weakness. It is our most accurate measure of courage.
there you go. Yeah, yeah,
How's that, Terry? Most
yeah.
accurate measure of courage.
Courage. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely we need to be clear in the groups that we're
Hmm.
um who we're with
Hmm.
and we're when we're safe to do that because it does take courage to be vulnerable. I mean, I
Right.
when Kelly and I did a workshop this weekend, yeah, this weekend, um last weekend, and it was on fearless loving.
Yeah.
And as a part of our workshops, we tell our story.
Yes.
And, so we have several stories that we share about, learning to love ourselves and to have that be our aura is to be love. And so
Mhm.
many times it is sharing something very personal, and yet we're in a safe space where it accentuates the principle and helps to build trust with the participants. And so it does take a lot of courage, because some of the stories are before we were transformed into more loving persons.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too. And so a reflective question for everyone would be, what fears hold you back from being vulnerable? And how can you move past that or release that, right? And open that to heal, you know, and explore vulnerability.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
what I made a note of. I like the understanding that my aura is radiating love.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the P. The P in our acronym of expand, I have as practice compassion. And right, I mean, just the role that compassion plays in fostering love and understanding is is essential. And bringing that to the table. And um Terry, what are your thoughts on or tips for showing compassion even in challenging
Yeah.
situations that
Yeah.
you would want to share?
Yeah, in Fearless Living, we discover our essential nature. It's one of the activities that we do early on in the program so that we understand again ourselves and can love ourselves because our essential nature is what we deny ourselves the most. And mine happened to be compassion.
Mhm.
So I have a
So,
very intimate relationship with compassion for myself.
mhm.
And, compassion for others. I mean, I was a kindergarten teacher. You have to be pretty compassionate, right?
Yes.
And I was very active in my church. So I was, I was in positions where I showed compassion for others, but not for myself.
Mm,
So absolutely, when we're exploring, love and expanding love, to me, compassion is the core. And you can say there's other words for compassion, right? There's synonyms for compassion, kindness,
yeah.
gentleness, love. Yeah. Wow. Peaceful living.
Yeah, this is one of my great tools for the compassion
Yeah.
and love.
Yeah. Well, see,
Yep.
we're twin sisters here. Um,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's just, to
Compassion.
me,
Yeah.
there's three tenets in exploring and expanding love. First being compassion, and this is for myself, because if I don't have it for myself, there's no way I authentically share it with others. So the first is compassion, the second is honesty, which we've already talked about, honesty and trust, and the third is personal responsibility. And
Mm,
those all are a part of compassion, because if we are responsible to ourselves and do what we tell ourselves we're going to do, we think the way we tell ourselves to think, think loving thoughts, speak loving words, have compassion in your actions for yourself and others, that is the foundation of living fearlessly and being able to be in the midst of chaos and still have that compassion, and let that compassion be your guiding principle. Um, First for yourself again, and then it just, talking about auras and expanding our love to others. That's where it starts. So couldn't have picked a better word than that for me.
yeah. It radiates. It radiates. I love the word radiating.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes out. And right. So thinking about a reflection, how can you practice more compassion for yourself? Right. And others this week. But right, I really want to challenge you to say yourself, like
Oh,
starting with you,
yeah.
because it does radiate out, that reminder that when we look at this for ourself, we can only control ourselves, right? So
The
um
only thing we can control.
the only thing we can control is ourselves, right? So how can you do that with practicing compassion for yourself so that, yeah, we're more willing to explore vulnerability and embrace our authentic selves.
Yeah.
Healing stuff when that gets brought to the table. I love that. Okay, the A is align with purpose. Now, right? I mean, anything with purpose just really brings strength. I just think of that immediately. When we're doing anything with purpose, it's stronger in the fact, of thinking about connection and love. And when I look at getting an alignment, that's exactly, it's like clicking it all into place and taking those actions to align with purpose. And we do that with our relationships, with our businesses, we do it with everything, but getting in alignment, because that's how living on purpose, that's what happens. That's what it starts to look like when we're doing it with purpose and intention. So what does living on purpose look like for you, Terry? And how can you align with it more deeply, thinking forward this
Yeah.
week?
Yeah. No, I love that. I actually my P word was purpose.
Yeah.
Um, I believe that for me, the turning point, or the juncture in my life where purpose became more clear for me, was when I began to understand the role of expectations in my life,
Mm,
and I replaced those with intentions. And I believe that once I understood that compassion was my core, and that my intentions of how I wanted to think, speak, feel, and act were related to compassion, I was able to then align my intentions with compassion.
mm,
And that made a huge difference in my life. I think understanding, again, I believe that so much of what we're talking about comes from clarity of who we are.
Yeah.
and understanding who we are, because many people cannot articulate their values to start with. Um, and just haven't taken that opportunity to clearly understand who they are at their core and what their essential nature is, and also to understand the part that fear plays in their lives. And all of that kind of goes together synergistically in order for you to have intentions and to live your life in that realm of intentions rather than in that landscape of expectations. And I think that's where this comes in for me, is that alignment was created once I had the clarity of my values. I understood that compassion was what would drive my growth and my journey to freedom. And then I was able to create intentions, a large, huge, overarching intention that could guide every thought, word, feeling, and action. And then daily intentions that would keep me in alignment with that
Mhm.
overall intention. That changed my life. That changed my life. And my capacity, once again, to have compassion in the middle of chaos.
That expansion.
Yeah.
Totally the love expansion, and it does go back to love because that is an act of self-love to give yourself the gift of that, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Learning it, implementing it, practicing it.
Yeah.
Connection with yourself. Yeah. Love that. That's beautiful. So for our listeners, right, ask yourself that question, what does living on purpose look like for you? And how can you better align with it more? All right, the N is nurture relationships.
Mhm.
I love it. So Terry makes her own acronyms or adds to it, like with her notes over there. So I just love when I share one and she's like reacting to hearing the the acronym because she doesn't know ahead of time. So I have down nurture relationships, and right, it's so the power behind in really investing in relationships, with our time, with our energy and attention, right? Being present in relationships. That's nurturing, really, especially now, in the world where we're at, and like understanding how much um love goes into the attention we give people when it's your focus is to listen. I'm listening to a book on audio in my vehicle right now because I have a '05 vehicle, so it has a CD player in it that I got an audiobook from the library. So the book is called You're Not Listening. I think it's Kate Murphy is the author, but it's really because my focus is always wanting to be a better communicator. And because I want that to translate in my relationships, the way I radiate love is that I give people space, and I love to nurture a deep level of connection. So I'm always thinking about what relationship needs nurturing and how, can I prioritize that better? And it always comes back to like being a better listener.
Mhm.
And I think about how important this is in investing our time and attention into our relationships and how it deepens the way that we want to maintain them. So, yeah, nurture relationships. Like, what relationship needs to be nurtured in your life right now? And how can you how can you choose to prioritize that when that's a way that you want to expand in a loving way?
Yeah, I love that. I think when you ask that question, what relationship in your life needs
Mhm.
nurturing, um, oftentimes, again, it's kind of like been a theme of our discussion, is that it always starts with yourself. Um, how are you nurturing yourself? And this comes,
Mhm.
a component of self-love, which is, are you getting enough sleep? Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving enough? Are
Mhm.
you eating uh, to nurture your body? Just those acts of personal expansion in order to be of service. Because if you're not, don't have energy, and you're not healthy, and you're tired, and it's hard to be that person that you want to be. So in Fearless Living, everything, every concept starts with yourself. So
Yeah.
nurturing yourself, and then expanding from there. Is it your family, your colleagues, you know, moving out to nurture others? But by nurturing yourself, then you really learn what that means and what that feels like. What's that sound like? What's it
Mhm.
look like to nurture yourself? And then expand that, which is what we're talking about, expansion. Um, it really, really has shown me in my life that when I have taken care of my basic human needs, which, we can go through Maslow's hierarchy, or you can just, you know what they are. Um, I'm much more compassionate for myself, and then expanding that to others. So I have an overall intention in my health, in that particular, we really usually look at 9 areas of our life. So when we
Mm,
look at the area of health, I feel like expanding the love for myself is by getting to bed, getting sleep, drinking water, eating lots of protein, walking, that those things allow me then to practice these other parts of the acronym. I can explore. I can climb mountains if I want to because I have enough energy. And I can explore relationships because I'm not tired. I can go out and work with people and connect with people and serve in my community. So it's just when I think of nurturing, I really come back to that core of loving myself enough to nurture others. And it just expands exponentially because you have the energy and
mhm.
you have that, electrical current running through you that you can then light up
Right.
other people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great visual too. Well, even the reminder, right, about the healthy habits. You know, drinking our water, fueling our bodies, giving our mind good energy, and using our sleep routine and the way that we choose to fuel our body, right? Those things all do matter when we're talking about nurturing. So I love that you bring that, full circle to say it is all back to us and thinking about how we can prioritize our own nourishment, right? So that we are able to better expand the way that we're loving the people in our lives. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then you're gonna like this. I already know that the D is gonna give some great conversation around gratitude. So it's develop gratitude, right? So as we're doing this strategy, right? This framework of being able to open up to embracing our authentic self and the vulnerability that comes with that and the compassion and the alignment in our purpose and nurturing ourselves, we need to be grateful along the way and like feel into how much that does amplify love in our life. It brings more positivity and it opens up your heart even more when we have a practice to recognize the progress, recognize the good things in our lives. So, right, like what are you grateful for in your relationships or, in the work that you're doing right now, in your self work, the things that you're becoming more aware of? How can you see that more clearly so that you can give more gratitude to it? Because when we do that, we amplify it. It ripples out even stronger and it kind of boomerangs, right? It's a circulation that's happening. It's a reciprocity that
Yeah.
occurs.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And as you know, I practice writing a
Every
gratitude
day.
journal. Yeah. Every morning. I've already done it this morning. It's the first thing I do in the morning.
Yeah.
And not just gratitude, but I also write in a daily intention about how I'm going to show up in alignment with my overall overarching life intention. And I write acknowledgments, which is a way of nurturing myself and having compassion for myself. So, what am I grateful for? and what am I acknowledging myself for either thinking, saying, or doing that is in alignment and moving me forward, because otherwise we tend to beat ourselves up. And so by acknowledging the things that we've done in the day, and I do mine in the morning after, so I did mine this morning for yesterday.
Right.
And it just helps me to start today recognizing, yeah, I had a lot of blessings yesterday, and I did these things in order to move forward in my commitment, to myself and to God. And it just it's in my bones. I don't think I could go a day. I take my gratitude journal, I call it that, even though it's more than that. I take it with me everywhere I go. I mean, I go on a trip, whatever, I take it because I'm not going to miss a day. So I have boxes and boxes of them because I've been doing it for 10 years.
I love it. Do all of the journals look the same? Like, is it the same kind of notebook or
No,
is it?
not always, but generally what I do is when school's ready to start, I go
Yeah.
to Walmart and I buy those composition books because they'll be on
Okay.
sale for 10 cents. And right
There's
before
the
school
teacher.
starts, teachers go in and buy, tons of them. Well, I go in and
Yeah.
buy probably enough for a year, which is probably about 20.
Mhm.
And but then sometimes somebody gives me a special notebook and I'll use it. But I was telling Kelly the other day, maybe I should just start throwing them out because I know nobody's going to ever read them. But the thing is that they're dated and I can go back and I can look at things. And sometimes I'll pull one out and look, oh, this was 6 years ago. And here's what well, I have moved past that. Just as
Yeah.
a acknowledgement of where I am and where I'm going, and that I am, expanding and making progress. So,
Hmm.
yeah, gratitude to me is paramount to our capacity to love ourselves and to have that a capacity to expand that love outside of ourselves.
Yeah. I just thought of a really fun challenge that could be there is, and this for myself too, because I also have, a gratitude journal. This one is from our friend Brenda Wolf. And I have many of these that I've been doing over the last couple of years. And, a challenge would be to just go to the notebook after you fill it, like stop and then like pick a
And just
day to
read
do
it.
like 10 minutes at a time to just like read a or just pick a page, just
Yep.
randomly get a page and see what was meant for you to remember in, being grateful and what to acknowledge yourself from
Yeah.
at that time from throughout after you fill it. Like it could be a fun thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. I'll do that frequently, and it is. It's just, oh yeah,
It's a great reminder.
I remember that challenge, or I remember that blessing, or I
Yeah.
really have come a long way, in my journey, uh, by reading acknowledgements.
It is a great way to then also be able to practice the compassion, I think, right?
Hmm.
Going back to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's really, to me, it really fits this acronym, because we're talking about expanding our, our love.
Yeah.
And it's just love. I don't know. I feel like the theme of today is love yourself first, and then everything else falls in place.
There you go. I like that takeaway, Terry. That's
Yeah.
great. Love
Yeah,
yourself first.
because some people think that's selfish, but to me, that's society trying to undermine the importance of how, that we were created as loving creatures sent to this earth to love. And society, whatever you want to call it, the dark side, wants us to think loving ourselves is selfish. But
Right.
if we don't have love for ourselves, there's really no way to be authentic, no way to really be vulnerable. All of these things that you have here, it's a deterrent to all of those if we don't have that gratitude and love for ourselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Absolutely.
I could talk about this for a day, so
Yeah.
I'll let you
Yeah.
go on.
This is great. Well, so let's recap about the expand framework as we close out here and um inviting you listeners to think about this for yourself, right? Which part of the expand acronym resonates most with your journey where you are right now? And how can love and connection fuel your goals and the relationships that you are focused on in loving more? And the acronym that I shared was embrace, explore with an X, because we're cool like that. Practice, align, nurture, and develop, right? Those are like the basis of it. So um would love to just challenge you to choose one of those aspects that we discussed to focus on this month, or even just this week or this today, just taking the action today to be present with how that step can really bring encouragement to your life and expand your heart center for love expansion theme. And Terry, I want to thank you for having this discussion and being in the conversation around love expansion and the acronym of expand. So
My pleasure. Do
um
you want to know my acronym?
yes, please, sure. What's your
Okay, because
acronym?
some of them are the same.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had embrace, explore with an X,
Mhm,
purpose, but I
mhm,
also thought of presence. So I
mhm.
put two P's, and then attentiveness, or you could say attention, then nurturing and discernment. So those were mine. Yeah. So very, very, very much the same in the same family of expanding one's love. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
Yeah,
love that you
I love
put
these. I'm so glad I'm working on my calendar so I don't miss them because I love this whole thing about doing the acronyms and then talking about what they mean to me. So
Yeah, this is so
yeah.
that it can encourage you to take some action steps towards, your own meaningful growth through love expansion. So, right, what acronym for our listeners, is there other acronyms that can support you in using this, right? Because you have been really versed in developing gratitude. Like, develop gratitude is something that you've already harnessed. You've now tapped into the fact that, like, the discerning piece of that is probably more important on your journey right now because you've already been mastering the gratitude side. So I love how change in those pieces for yourself and like, oh, those are great reminders. And you keep going, with the wisdom that you have around each of these pieces, you can make your own acronym and dive deeper in for yourself because this is your journey. This is your courageous moves that'll continue to expand your heart center. So love that. Love that encouragement for everyone listening to, use this the way that it's best for you, right? That's the whole point. Is that these are giving you strategies and ideas to get creative around the way that you want to live your life. So, yes. Terry and Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your insights. And our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Becky Ploutz. We would love to hear from you. Please rate, review this podcast episode, and be sure that you are subscribed. And we will see you very soon.